Exposed. My mother-in-law's amazing secret changed everything. 3 life-changing revelations. Thanksgiving was always a whirlwind at Sarah's house, but this year felt like a storm brewing on the horizon. The aroma of turkey filled the small kitchen in her Midwestern home, blending with the vibrant hues of fall leaves outside. Each whiff tugged at her heart, reminding her that family and togetherness were supposed to be joyful. Yet, at this moment, tension crackled in the air like electricity. Sarah glanced at Grace, her mother-in-law, whose smile radiated authority and warmth. Grace's conversation flowed effortlessly, charming everyone with stories of her grand career as a principal. Yet, behind those layers of kindness, Sarah felt overshadowed, like a mere footnote in a book with an illustrious title. With 3 active children darting around, Sarah juggled the cooking with a tight smile, her heart racing under the weight of perfection. "Why can't I ever do enough?" she lamented silently, biting her lip hard enough to feel the sting. Grace's voice boomed across the room, drawing everyone in. "You know, when I was your age," she began, and Sarah's chest tightened, wondering if she would ever measure up to this woman who seemed to float through life radiating gold. As the evening wore on, Grace's stories continued to hang in the air, creating an invisible wall between Sarah and her mother-in-law. When the kitchen grew too chaotic, Sarah slipped away to the attic, seeking solace among dusty boxes. That's when her fingers brushed against a delicate trunk embellished with faded stickers from the 60s. Curiosity piqued, she unclasped the rusted lock and opened it, revealing letters tucked inside. Heart pounding, she unfolded one and felt the world around her fade. Suddenly, she was reading Grace's own words, a soldier's voice, raw and fierce, recounting battles fought in Vietnam. Tears stung Sarah's eyes as she began to piece together a reality that shattered her perception of Grace. These letters illustrated a woman of grit, who faced uncertainty with courage, whose dreams were littered with sacrifice, not just the soft-spoken grandmother she knew but a woman who had fought for her country. In those moments, Sarah discovered 3 life-changing revelations that illuminated her mother-in-law's hidden past. Grace's bravery, the resilience of women during wartime, and the unspoken burdens of lost dreams contrasting with their reality. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The revelation wrapped around Sarah like a blanket, warm yet suffocating. How could she have known that beneath Grace's polished exterior lay stories of courage she'd never even imagined? The conflict within her swelled, awakening feelings of bitterness and understanding in her heart. Suddenly, the competition for acknowledgement, the pressure to excel, lost all its meaning. She wanted to scream but found herself clenching those letters tightly as if they were fragile glass. The confrontation spiraled through Thanksgiving dinner, with emotions unraveling in a whirlpool of nostalgia and desire for approval. Sarah's voice broke as she faced Grace, emotions spilling like ink on paper. "You never told me," she whispered. The room grew stale with anticipation as Grace met her gaze, a smattering of surprise dancing in her eyes. Both women stood at the brink of understanding. With family life and their shared past exploding into color, how would they rewrite their legacies and find common ground amidst the storm? The air thickened with an uncharted sense of hope, waiting to bloom. Like the first flowers of spring, the silence hung heavy in the air, an unspoken acknowledgement of the weight of their revelations. Sarah's heart raced as she searched Grace's eyes for a hint of understanding. Would this be the moment they finally bridged the gap that had grown over the years? Nothing had felt more isolating than the perception that she was always trying to catch up, always on the outside of a world dominated by Grace's towering presence. With a deep breath, Sarah stood taller. "All these years, I thought you were just this perfect, unapproachable woman. I had no idea you fought so hard." The words spilled out raw and unrefined, but they felt liberating. Grace's shock began to melt away, replaced by something softer, regret, perhaps mixed with a glimmer of pride. "You don't know the half of it, dear. I thought I was protecting you from my past." Protecting me? Or just protecting yourself? The question hung there, and Sarah bit her lip again, feeling the heat of vulnerability wash over her. She needed Grace to see her, To know that she wasn't just a dutiful daughter-in-law trying to fit into a mold. Grace's gaze flickered, a storm brewing in her eyes as she processed the accusation. "You're right," she admitted slowly. "I was scared. Afraid that if you knew the whole truth you'd see me as weak." The admission hung in the air, fragile as a gossamer thread. Just then, one of the kids scrambled through the door, charging in with wide eyes. "Mom! Grandma! Can we make pumpkin pie before dinner?" The joyful interruption shattered the tension, and Sarah couldn't help but smile at her child's enthusiasm. "Sure thing," Sarah said, her voice brightening. Grace's lips curled into a warm smile, and for a fleeting moment, the grandmotherly aura returned. But the earlier conversation lingered, a new bond forged through understanding and shared pain. As they gathered the ingredients, Sarah felt a warmth envelop her. It wasn't just the heat of the oven. It was the realization that she could share her own story too. While mixing the velvety filling, she glanced at Grace. "Can we talk after dinner? I think I have a few stories of my own worth sharing." Grace's eyebrow arched, but this time there was curiosity instead of skepticism. "Now I'm intrigued. What could you possibly have to share that would rival my escapades?" Her voice held a playful challenge, breaking the tension and sparking a hint of excitement. "Well," Sarah replied, a sly smile creeping onto her face as she whisked the filling, "let's just say my adventures in motherhood have been quite the battlefield, too." The kitchen burst with laughter as the children chimed in about their own mishaps, their innocence a refreshing balm over the frayed edges of family dynamics. Thanks to those letters, a new chapter was dawning, not just for Sarah and Grace, but for the whole family. Yet in the back of her mind, Sarah felt the unease still tickling her nerves, a fear that maybe sharing her vulnerabilities would unravel more than it would heal. What if, in doing so, she exposed her own battles in ways that felt raw and too close to home? As they rolled the pie crust together, the weight of their unspoken truths hung like a tangible thread between them, fragile but steady. And just as Sarah turned to suggest another topic of conversation, a chilling thought crept in. Would Grace truly embrace her story? Or would it fracture what they had finally begun to build? The moment hovered in the air, a clear definition between two women who were beginning to understand each other, poised on the brink of something deeper. Sarah's heart echoed with hope and a flicker of fear. What lay ahead could either mend their relationship, or throw them back into the shadows they had just begun to escape. As dinner approached, the blending of their narratives beckoned a new possibility. Would they dare to dive deeper and find an understanding that went beyond words? The aroma of baking pie filled the kitchen, mingling with the sound of laughter as children scampered about, their excitement infectious. For a brief moment the air felt light again. But beneath those cheerful voices, Sarah wrestled with the unseen weight of her own truths. As they prepared for dinner, she kept glancing at Grace, who seemed immersed in a world of her thoughts. The playful banter from the kids faded into the background, and Sarah's heart began to race again. Could she truly speak her truth after the fragile connection they had just started to forge? "Mom, can you help me find the chocolate chips?" one of her children called, breaking into her reverie. Sarah smiled, the love for her little ones momentarily pushing aside her insecurity. "Sure." She turned, but as she rummaged through the pantry, an unsettling flicker of doubt crept in. Sharing her struggles wasn't just about her, it was about how Grace might see her after. What if, in her vulnerability, she invited judgment instead of understanding? Dinner was a whirlwind of clattering dishes and gentle teasing. Sarah noticed Grace's laughter, genuine and carefree, almost like a beacon signaling a shift in their relationship. Maybe the pie had sparked something, a sense of teamwork that could bridge the chasm that separated them. As they settled around the table, plates piled high, Sarah felt the buzzing tension in her body. "Grace, would you say a blessing?" her husband asked, smiling at her. The kitchen quieted, and all eyes turned to Grace. Grace took a deep breath, her expression softening. Of course. Her voice was steady as she spoke, gratitude spilling from her heart. But as she prayed, Sarah sensed the weight of unspoken words pressing around them. It was time. After dinner, she said suddenly, the words tumbling out faster than she could catch them, "I want to share something." A ripple of surprise flickered across the table. "About what?" Her husband looked curious but supportive. "What I've been through as a parent," Sarah replied, stealing a glance at Grace. "The struggles. The failures." Grace's brow lifted slightly, a mixture of intrigue and caution. Do you really think that S wise? Sarah's heart skipped. Was there fear in Grace's eyes? I think it's necessary, she noted, each word like an anchor pulling them deeper into their truths. Dinner progressed, the conversation swaying between light-hearted stories and serious reflections about parenting. And still, Sarah felt the weight of what she wanted to say. The children laughed, oblivious to the undercurrents, but each giggle pushed Sarah closer to her resolve. When the last bite was taken, and the dishes were cleared, she took a deep breath, ready to dive into the waters of vulnerability that both frightened and thrilled her. Grace, she locked eyes with her mother-in-law, her heart thundering. I want you to know how hard being a mom is for me. Grace leaned in, an unreadable expression on her face, and Sarah's pulse quickened. Feels like I'm always struggling. I've fought hard to find my place in this family, and sometimes I feel so lost. A hush fell over the room. There was no laughter now, just the heavy expectation of words unspoken. The space filled with anticipation. Would Grace respond with the warmth Sarah longed for, or the coldness of dismissal? Sarah, Grace started, her voice trembling with uncertainty. I had no idea you felt that way. And just like that, the walls seemed to shift. But even as hope blossomed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling, a sensation that something much larger was about to unfold. The uncharted territory of her mother-in-law's past swirled in her mind, igniting curiosity. As they began to discuss feelings, it was clear that the next revelation was looming just beyond reach. Sarah sensed that the next layer of truth was waiting to be unearthed, a shared vulnerability that could either weave their stories together or tear them apart. Her heart pounded as she thought, what had Grace been hiding all these years? Grace's words trailed off, almost as if a flood of memories had surged into her mind. The atmosphere shifted, hanging thick with anticipation. Sarah could see the wavering light of uncertainty in her mother-in-law's gaze, and it both thrilled and terrified her. I guess I should start by telling you that I wasn't always sure of my place in this family either, Grace finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The children began to murmur softly, their playful energy shifting to an inquisitive curiosity that filled the air between the adults. Sarah leaned forward, her heart racing. She had anticipated this moment, yet now it felt monumental. Here they were, two women, bonded by family and yet burdened by unbridled expectations. What do you mean? She asked. Grace wiped her hands on her apron, a nervous habit. When I first married your father-in-law, I was young and naive. I thought I had it all figured out, how to be a perfect wife and mother. But soon I realized I was in over my head. I faced struggles that, well, like you, left me feeling lost. The room felt still, the children now engrossed in their own quiet bubble, as if sensing the weight of the moment. Sarah felt a potent mix of relief and frustration. Grace had struggled too? But you always seemed so put together, Grace. You always had everything under control. Grace laughed lightly, though her eyes held a sadness that spoke volumes. That was just a facade. I learned to hide my mistakes to make it seem like everything was just fine. But inside I was anxious and scared. A real mess, honestly. She hesitated, a shuddering breath escaping as she pinched the bridge of her nose. What do you mean by a mess? Did you feel inadequate? Sarah's words hung in the air, a vulnerable echo of her own insecurities. Yes, Grace confessed quietly, the admission carving a new path between them. I thought if I appeared strong enough, everyone would believe it. But I was lonely. There were nights I cried without a sound, wondering if I was good enough. Sarah's heart ached at those words, the truth in Grace's voice igniting warmth in her chest. You? It felt so strange, that the woman who had once represented strength in Sarah's eyes was now sharing her scars. I felt like I was drowning, Grace continued, soaking in the honesty of the moment. And I never wanted my children to see that. I thought it would only add to their burdens. The gentle clinking of dishes as they were put away in the background faded into nothing but white noise. Sarah's own struggles echoed in Grace's words. She felt closer to Grace now, a sister in secrecy. I'm scared of failing too, she admitted softly, her voice steadying as she recalled her own moments of doubt. I don't always know how to be the mom my kids need. Grace's gaze steadied on her, a spark igniting in their fragile connection. But saying it out loud makes it real, doesn't it? You can't be perfect, but sharing it makes it lighter. Just then, one of the children came running into the room, jubilantly calling for another cookie. shattering the intensity of the conversation. Laughter followed them as they tumbled back into their joyful chaos, unaware of the heavy truths just shared. As the laughter filled the room, both women exchanged a knowing glance, a shared bond beginning to take shape. It felt like the first thread of understanding had been woven between their stories. "Let us promise to keep talking so we don't carry this weight alone anymore," Grace suggested, blood rushing to her cheeks, the vulnerability still raw. "Yes," Sarah replied firmly, her heart now emboldened. It was time to untangle the past and build a future together. But as she looked into Grace's eyes, an unsettling thought crossed her mind. What deeper truth was hidden behind Grace's smile? What sacrifices had she made that Sarah had yet to discover? As they stood in that moment, scattered cookie crumbs around them and laughter echoing, a new chapter loomed. Would this honesty unravel more than they had bargained for? Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Grace's story. The way she smiled, even while revealing her vulnerabilities, felt almost like a mask. What lay beneath the surface? The laughter of the children gradually faded away, and with it, the comforting distraction of everyday noise. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah's voice quivered, breaking the silence that had settled between them. The kitchen felt warmer now, filled with the sense of baked goods and the lingering aroma of shared confessions. "Of course," Grace replied, eyes brightening with curiosity. What about the sacrifices you mentioned earlier? You said you felt lonely and like you were drowning. Was it just the pressure of being a mother? Or was there something else?" Grace's smile faltered for a brief moment, like a boat rocked by an unexpected wave. She seemed to gather her thoughts, folding her hands tightly in her lap. "It was a bit of both," she admitted slowly. "You see, I gave up a lot when I chose this life. My dreams, my aspirations, they changed." "What do you mean?" Sarah leaned in, the air electric with curiosity. It struck her just how similar the two of them truly were. Each had donned a mask of strength, fashioned from fear and uncertainty. "There was a time I wanted to be a writer," Grace revealed softly, her voice a gentle murmur. "I poured my heart into stories, but once the children came, I set that aside. It felt selfish to chase after something that seemed trivial compared to raising them. I thought that's what a good mother should do." Her admission hung in the air, filled with an ache that Sarah felt wrapping around her heart. "But did you ever regret it?" Tears sparkled in Grace's eyes, reflections of a past she had buried so deeply. "Times, yes. I found comfort in writing, a way to express my feelings. But I told myself that my family should come first. I convinced myself that was enough." Sarah pondered this revelation. The weight of unfulfilled dreams hung heavy, but she could feel Grace's bravery in being open about it. She hadn't just carried the burden of motherly expectations. She had also borne her own stifled passions. How would it feel to face her own unrealized hopes? The silence deepened as they both mulled over the words spoken. It felt like stepping into an unlit room, each of them cautiously illuminating the dark corners of their hearts. "Grace, what if we found a way to support each other?" Sarah suggested suddenly, her pulse quickening at the thought. "What if you started writing again, even just for yourself? You could share and I could help you if you want." Hope ignited in Grace's eyes. "You would really do that?" "Of course," Sarah beamed. "And I've been thinking about my own dreams too. Maybe it's time I explored them." As they shared that fleeting moment of excitement, the laughter of the children burst back into the kitchen, reminding them of the responsibilities pressing at their backs. "Maybe we can carve out small pockets of time," Grace said, smiling through the vulnerability. "Right. Just like how we're starting to carve out this space between us, more real talk, more honesty about everything, not just being perfect. We can do that together." The bond between them felt thicker now, almost palpable, woven from shared fears and newfound hope. Just then, an infographic pinned on the refrigerator caught Sarah's eye. It read, "Pursue your passions, even in small ways." "Maybe we just need to leap," Sarah said, feeling that familiar flutter of excitement once again. But as they stood there, unsure yet exhilarated, a shadow flickered at the edge of Sarah's thoughts. Was dwelled within the sacrifices they had yet to face? Did each decision carry consequences they hadn't anticipated? "Shall we begin this journey?" Grace asked, her expression intently curious. Sarah nodded, a spark igniting within her. Little did they know the real journey hadn't even begun. What lay ahead would challenge everything they thought they knew about family, dreams, and their own identities. Would they be brave enough to face it together? The next morning, Sarah woke to the unfamiliar sound of birds chirping outside her window. It was warm for early February, and the sunshine spilled into her room like liquid gold. Sitting up, she felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. Today was the day they would start pursuing their passions, a leap of faith that both thrilled and terrified her. After a quick breakfast, Sarah hurried over to Grace's house, her heart racing with the prospect of exploring a new chapter in their lives. As she stepped inside, the scent of fresh coffee wrapped around her like a gentle embrace. Grace was already at the kitchen table, her notebook open, pen tapping nervously against her cheek. "Good morning," Sarah greeted, her voice bright despite the flutter in her stomach. "Hey, I didn't know if you'd really come," Grace admitted, her smile wavering a bit. "Of course. I'm ready to leap," Sarah shot back, feeling the excitement bubble up. "What are you thinking about writing today?" "I don't even know where to start," Grace confessed, glancing at the blank page. "What if I can't find the right words?" "Let us just start with whatever comes to mind. No pressure," Sarah encouraged, pulling out a chair. "It's like just talking, it doesn't have to be perfect." Grace nodded, her shoulders relaxing a fraction. "I'll try." She took a deep breath and with a shaky hand she began to write. As the words flowed, Sarah found herself completely captivated. Grace was revealing tales of motherhood, juggling expectations, and the longing for her pre-motherhood self. It was raw, honest, and pulsated with a rhythm that spoke to Sarah's heart. Halfway through the session, Grace paused and let out a deep, resigned sigh. "I've missed this feeling. Writing is a piece of me I thought I lost forever." "Then don't stop," Sarah encouraged. "Remember, it's about discovery, not about the final product." With renewed determination, Grace wrote fervently, sharing stories that peeled back layers she had kept concealed for years. Sarah could feel the bond between them strengthening, stitched together with words and shared dreams and all the fears they'd tucked away. But as the afternoon sun dipped lower outside, Grace suddenly stopped writing. "I think I need to tell you something," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "What is it?" Sarah asked, worry drawing her attention. "I've always thought my writing was just for me. But when I read it back now, I can't help but wonder what if it could help other mothers." Grace looked at Sarah, vulnerability swirling in her eyes. "What if it could bring people together? What if it could change lives?" Sarah felt a rush of emotions. "That's it. Your voice is powerful, Grace. Don't you see? It's exactly what others need to hear, how real motherhood is." The words hung in the air, heavy yet hopeful. They began discussing the possibility of turning Grace's stories into a blog, maybe even a book, the words echoing with the breath of possibility. "Oh, just imagine. What if it resonated with even one person?" Grace said, her eyes sparkling as she finally allowed the thought to take root. "We could create a community. Let us make it happen," Sarah urged, their excitement building like climbing tides. But just then, the sound of children laughing interrupted their moment. Grace's face fell slightly, as if reality had crashed into their imaginative bubble. "Monday is my hardest day with the kids," she explained. "I'll need to check on them." "Of course," Sarah replied, though a seed of concern settled in her mind. "We can pick this up later." Yet the moment left her both exhilarated and uneasy. Moments like these could be fleeting. What if it was just a dream not meant to be lived? As Grace left to tend to the children, Sarah stared out the window, her thoughts swirling. Could they really turn this dream into something bigger? Would they confront whatever shadows awaited them on this journey? Just then, she spotted something through the trees, a flicker of color she hadn't noticed before. The nearby park glowed with families enjoying the warm day. Maybe that was where they could start building their community. Deciding to take that step, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to reach for her dreams, even if the path was still uncertain. What awaited them on the other side of this leap of faith? Would their journey truly transform their lives? Or would they find new obstacles lurking in the shadows? The park was alive with vibrant colors and laughter, like an artist had splashed joy across a canvas. Sarah felt a pull, something magical in the air that urged her toward that warmth. She hesitated for just a moment, wondering if she was prepared to step into this unfamiliar world. But then she pushed the doubt aside. This was the moment they were waiting for, the start of something beautiful. She meandered through the pathways lined with blossoming trees. She could hear children at play. Their giggles echoed, a reminder of the innocence and freedom that often seemed just out of reach. Each step felt like shedding a layer of the old Sarah, the one who'd hidden behind routine and hesitation. She felt lighter, as if hope fluttered just above her like the kites dancing in the sky. When she reached the park center, a flash of pink caught her eye. It came from a small booth set up by a group of mothers hosting a community event. Their kindness radiated, inviting all who passed to join in their craft activities. It was a hodgepodge of crayons, paper, and bright glitter, each table teeming with creativity. Sarah felt a spark ignite in her chest. This was it, the essence of connection and community she yearned for. "Hey there!" The voice broke through her thoughts. A woman with curly hair and warm brown eyes waved energetically. "We're getting ready for a community mural. Want to add your mark?" Sarah's heart raced with excitement. "I'd love to," she exclaimed, stepping forward eagerly. As she sat down, she started to splash her thoughts onto the canvas. Bright colors swirled around heartfelt messages, dreams both big and small. In those moments, surrounded by laughter and camaraderie, Sarah remembered her deeper purpose. This wasn't just about Grace's writing. It was about creating a space where mothers could unite, share, and support each other. Hours flew by as Sarah and the mothers exchanged stories. She found herself sharing snippets of her own life, the challenges and the beauty of motherhood. Their stories echoed back, creating a symphony of shared experiences. Every laugh seemed like a thread weaving them closer together in a tapestry of solidarity. It was then that Sarah felt it, a grounding moment where she knew they had the potential to build something bigger. She envisioned Grace's writing paired with this vibrant community of mothers, a source of comfort and strength. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue across the park, she spotted Grace approaching. Relief washed over Sarah, but so did anxiety. Would Grace see the vision she had begun to build? Would she understand that this wasn't just an idea anymore, it was a calling? "Sarah, I was hoping to catch you," Grace said, her face lighting up as she surveyed the colorful chaos of the park. The laughter of children surrounded them as if they were in their own world, free from responsibilities. "You won't believe what I found," Sarah began, her voice brimming with excitement. "This place, these women. They're creating something beautiful, Grace. We could join them." Grace's eyes widened with surprise and intrigue. "Wow, this is incredible." Sarah grabbed her hand, pulling her closer to the canvas filled with messages of hope and encouragement. "Imagine if we could merge your stories with this community. Your words could connect so many more mothers, bring them together." But just as Grace was about to respond, a sudden commotion caught their attention. A little boy had stumbled and was now wailing, his small hands gripping his scraped knee. The laughter transformed into gasps of concern, and for a moment, the world around them was chaotic. As Grace moved to comfort the child, Sarah's heart raced again. Was this their moment? Would their plans be interrupted by life's unexpected turns? Feeling a mix of determination and uncertainty, she stood ready for whatever would come next. This was just the beginning, but it felt like a defining one, a decision to lean into change, to confront challenges rather than shy away. What other surprises awaited them? How would they navigate this wild world that could be both beautiful and daunting at the same time? In the moment of chaos, Sarah felt her heart race, not just from alarm but from an unexpected surge of purpose. As Grace, kneeling next to the little boy, whispering soft words of comfort, Sarah watched with admiration. There was something so natural in Grace's nurturing presence, a part of her that seemed completely at ease in these moments. "I know it hurts, buddy," Grace was saying, her fingers gently wiping away the boy's tears. "But you're so brave. Let us clean it up and get you back to having fun." It was a small encounter, but Sarah felt the weight of it. This was Grace, the one who had always used her words to tell stories, and on this day, those words had transformed into healing. It sparked a thought that she couldn't shake. Maybe it wasn't just about sharing Grace's stories. Maybe it was about how those stories could offer support through each small crisis, like this one. Once the boy's tears subsided, and he'd been ushered back to his friends, Sarah turned to Grace. "See, you already have that gift. What if we could help create a space where others can share their wounds just like you did with him?" Grace's brow furrowed slightly as she considered it. "You mean a platform for mothers to express their challenges?" To find the courage to share their stories? Yes. Your words, Sarah emphasized, excitement spilling over. They can be the glue that binds us together. We could provide a safe haven. A resource. The sun dipped lower, igniting the clouds in hues of orange and pink, as the park around them continued to buzz with energy. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, clearing away the day's worries and ushering in fresh ideas. With confidence rising in her voice, Sarah added, "We could create workshops or host storytelling nights. How powerful would it be for mothers to connect in a space designed for them?" Grace nodded slowly, the gears visibly turning in her mind. "I always wanted my stories to do more to reach out beyond my own experiences. It's always felt like I was shouting into a void." Her voice trailed off, revealing the heaviness of her past hesitations. "Then let us change that," Sarah exclaimed, her belief pouring out in waves. "We cannot just wait for perfect moments. We need to seize every opportunity, however imperfect." Just as they started to plan, another interruption pulled their attention. A voice crackled through a loudspeaker strung up nearby, announcing a group discussion about community resources for families. "Come join us. Let us build a stronger tomorrow together." The invitation felt almost serendipitous. It was as though the universe was responding to their thoughts, urging them to dive into action. Sarah exchanged a quick look with Grace, their excitement palpable. "Should we?" Grace asked, her eyes glimmering with newfound hope. "Yes. We can introduce ourselves and maybe even share our vision. Let us jump in," Sarah said, her enthusiasm contagious. In that moment, with the park illuminated by the gentle glow of dusk, both women felt the weight of possibility. They were standing on the edge of something transformative, not just for themselves but for others like them. As the crowd gathered, they took a deep breath, feeling empowered with every heartbeat. Just before stepping forward, Sarah paused, a twinge of apprehension mixing with exhilaration. "But what if they don't respond well to our idea? Then we adapt and keep going," Grace replied firmly. "Life is all about persistence, right?" With shared determination, they strode forward together, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Little did they know, this was the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything they believed about connection and community, one that would test their resolve in ways they never anticipated. What would they discover in the faces of their fellow mothers? Would there be others who felt just as they did? Each step deeper into the crowd swelled with uncertainty, but also with the thrill of something new. Would they find allies, or unearth unexpected challenges? The gathering buzzed with activity, a colorful mixture of mothers and children scattered across the park's sunlit lawn. Sarah and Grace exchanged a determined glance, as if silently promising each other they would not back down, no matter what. With hands clasped in anticipation, they stepped into the crowd. As they approached the group, Sarah noticed an array of faces. Some were tired, others animated, but all were searching for connection. She realized that her heart was thumping loudly, pounding her ribcage like a warning bell. But as Grace squeezed her hand, it calmed her nerves. A woman at the forefront of the discussion waved a welcoming hand, her voice warm and inviting. "Welcome, everyone. We're here to discuss resources for families, and to support each other through the challenges we face every day." Sarah could see the hope glistening in Grace's eyes. This was the moment. They just needed to find their voice amidst the cacophony of shared experiences. As the woman continued talking, Sarah felt a rush of urgency. After weeks of thinking, dreaming, and planning, it was now or never. "Excuse me." Sarah's voice rang out, surprising even her. She glanced at Grace, who nodded encouragingly. "We have an idea that might resonate with this group." The crowd turned their attention towards them, curious and expectant. Sarah took a breath, gathering her thoughts. "We believe that sharing our stories can help us heal and connect as mothers. There is so much power in our words, and we want to create a safe space where we can share our struggles, lessons, and victories." There was a moment of silence, the kind that felt charged with possibility. Sarah held her breath, waiting for a response, and then it happened. One woman in the front nodded enthusiastically, her eyes shining. "Yes, I'd love to be part of something like that." Grace stepped forward, drawing from Sarah's energy. "It's not just about us. We want to hear from every mother here. We all have different experiences and wisdom to share." A ripple of agreement passed through the crowd, and others began to speak up. Stories were exchanged, bouts of laughter mingled with tears. each voice weaving a complex tapestry of experience that bound them together. Sarah couldn't believe the warmth and openness rising like a tide. Then, a voice emerged from the back. A mother, her face shadowed by uncertainty. But what if it gets too personal? What if we expose too much and feel vulnerable? Grace stepped forward, her heart racing with empathy. That's exactly why it's important to have this safe space. We set our own limits. Sharing is powerful, but we also protect what we're not ready to reveal. As the conversation shifted, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. They were already sowing seeds for connection. They had ignited hope in those mothers, and she could see it shining brightly in their eyes. But just as they gained momentum, Sarah noticed a flicker of doubt creeping in. What if they stumbled? Or what if the group didn't grow as they imagined? The nagging thoughts twisted in her stomach, tightening like a knot. Grace must have sensed her hesitation because she leaned in, whispering, "This is the beginning, Sarah. We can figure it out together." With renewed courage, they planned their first storytelling workshop, eager to bridge connections between those vibrant voices. But deep down, Sarah knew this journey wouldn't be easy. They were treading into unknown waters as the sun dipped below the horizon. Painting the sky with dramatic colors, Sarah felt electrified. They started building something beautiful, something meaningful. But lurking just beneath the surface were challenges waiting to unfurl questions about commitment, trust, and how to navigate the complexities of vulnerability in a group. What would happen when the walls they built in their hearts began to crumble? Would they be ready to catch each other in the free fall? The excitement of possibilities swirled in the air, electrifying yet terrifying. With the warmth of the community surrounding them, Sarah felt both exhilaration and worry merging into a compelling force. Was this the right path to take? Would they embrace the chance to grow together? Or would the fear of exposure hold them back? As they exchanged emails and plans began to form, Sarah looked forward to the challenge ahead. But could they truly face it when emotions ran deep and life became raw? The sky was a canvas splattered with hues of dusky purple and soft pink as Sarah and Grace stood together in the park, their hearts racing with excitement and trepidation. What started as a single idea had morphed into a blossoming vision, a community of mothers who would share their stories and lift each other up. But as they prepared for the first storytelling workshop, a mix of fear and hope danced in the air around them. "Today is the day," Sarah whispered, glancing at Grace, who was fidgeting with the notebook she had filled with tentative notes. "How are you feeling?" "Nervous," Grace admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if no one shows up? What if they don't connect with our stories?" "That's normal," Sarah reassured her, squeezing her hand. "But it's about more than just today. We're planting seeds. It's the connections we make that will flourish even if it takes time." Grace smiled, a flicker of confidence returning to her eyes. "You're right. We've come this far. Let us see where it leads us." They set up in the park's open space, decorated with colorful banners and tables adorned with snacks and cups of lemonade. As the clock ticked closer to the start time, they shared glances of encouragement, readying themselves for the wave of families to arrive. Slowly, mothers began trickling in, gathering cautiously at first, but with the warmth of smiles and laughter echoing around them, the atmosphere lightened. Sarah stood up to welcome them, her voice steady as she shared their vision of a safe space where they could share struggles, victories, and create bonds through vulnerability. It felt electric. "We all have different experiences," Sarah said, her heart pounding with every word. "But together we can find sanctuary in our stories. We're here to uplift each other." The women began to open up, sharing snippets of their lives' moments that were raw and real. One mother spoke about coping with anxiety while parenting. Another shared her story of loss and rebirth after hardship. Another woman, with tears shining in her eyes, spoke of feeling invisible despite being surrounded by family. As they shared, the connection in the room grew thicker, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Sarah's heart swelled. Here was the healing she had hoped for, the essence of community blooming around them. Just then Grace stood up, her pulse racing. "I'd like to share something." The group turned in her direction, their expressions filled with curiosity. "I've spent so many years burying my fears, portraying a perfect picture as a mother," Grace began, her voice trembling but steady. "But I have my own struggles and regrets. I felt like I was failing my family when I abandoned my dreams to raise my kids. I thought I had to choose between being a mother and being me. The women leaned in closer, their eyes focused, some dabbing at tears that threatened to spill. But I realized that embracing my truth was the key. Grace continued, her heart lifting. Support is a two-way street, and nurturing each other through our joys and our pains is what makes us stronger. As the room began to buzz with affirmation, Sarah felt the tremors of doubt fall away, replaced by a vibrant energy. This wasn't just their journey anymore, it belonged to every woman present. After the session, they gathered in small circles to discuss what their stories meant to them. The laughter rose and fell like waves, but more importantly, they felt the echoes of understanding pulsating through the air. True connections were being forged as the sun dipped behind the trees, casting golden rays on their gathering. Sarah leaned into Grace. "This is incredible," she whispered, watching mothers laugh and cry together. "It really is," Grace smiled. "If we can keep this going, imagine how many lives we could touch." In that moment, something profound shifted between them. The barriers of expectation and judgment began to dissolve, replaced by friendship and shared purpose. The transformative power of their stories was taking root, blossoming into a community of support, compassion, and resilience. But as the gathering started to wind down, Sarah felt that familiar tug of uncertainty again. What if they don't come back? Or if they don't feel safe next time? Grace turned to her, eyes reflecting kindness. "Then we make sure they know they are welcome. We keep the doors open for their stories, no matter how dark or light they are. This is bigger than us." Determination set in and Sarah nodded, recalling the earlier doubts. It wouldn't always be easy, but the journey they were on was worth every step, twist and turn. They were making a difference, one story, one connection at a time. That night, as they wrapped up, both women heartened by the success, they knew the road ahead would be full of challenges and triumphs. But the potential they started igniting in each other and in themselves fueled a fire within them, ready to tackle everything life set on their path. As they closed the doors of the park, Sarah looked at Grace, a radiant smile breaking free. "Here's to the stories yet to be shared." "Here's to us," Grace replied, their hands clasped tightly as they stepped back into the world, not just as mother and daughter-in-law but as partners in a beautiful and transformative journey. And as they walked, the sky painted brighter with stars, signaling the beginning of something extraordinary, an undeniable bond strengthening through shared vulnerability, and a community soaring toward healing. Now this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and push this inspiring message further out. Comment below your thoughts, your reactions, your feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand how important it is to support our channel through these actions.